So guys, now that we are starting to get Soulburst Lumians in Lumian Legacy, I want to talk about what Lumians I think should get Soulburst and what Lumians I think Llama Train Studios will give Soulburst in the future. Starting with the first Lumian, which is T-clipse. Now, of course, T-clipse is the evolution of Twilight, which is like the Route 1 rodent, like the Rattata of Lumian Legacy, but T-clipse is a little bit interesting since it's very hard to get T-clipse if you don't know how to, since you need to have a Luxor and an Umbra already, and you have to rally both of them for Twilight to have a special move that can evolve into T-clipse. So T-clipse is definitely the definitive version of all the Twilight forms, so I think it only makes sense for T-clipse to get a Soulburst instead of something like Luxor and Umbra. Like, T-clipse is such a unique Lumian, seeing how it evolves from one of the most common Lumians in the game. I feel like it would make sense for it to get a Soulburst. I mean, Twilight is one of the most popular Lumians in all of Lumian Legacy, and is rumored to be getting a brand new redesign in the future, which probably means Luxor, Umbra, and T-clipse will all get redesigned as well, which could potentially hint for T-clipse getting a Soulburst in the future. But the next Lumian that I think is pretty likely to get a Soulburst is Wiki-wiki. The main reason why I think this Lumian will get a Soulburst is because Krakaloa got a Soulburst, and Kabunga and Kratal are sort of like counterpart Lumians since they both evolve by trading, and if you trade them both together, you get the special Lumians Volcaloa and Chartiki. So Wiki-wiki is sort of the counterpart to Krakaloa, and since Krakaloa got a Soulburst, it would only make sense for Wiki-wiki to get a Soulburst as well, because that would just be unfair since they're both basically the same Lumian but with different types, kind of. The next Lumian I have is Swolder. Now this is a very similar situation to Wiki-wiki, that Swolder is basically the counterpart to Florence, and you can only find Piter in the dark time in Gale Forest, but you can only find Ansi in the daytime in Gale Forest. And of course, since Florence got a Soulburst, that would only make sense for Swolder to get a Soulburst as well. The next thing is pretty obvious, it is all the starter Lumians, like Seer Knight, Himber, Vesperatu, Luminami, Tatab, Valkyrie, and Zuela. It'd be stupid for these guys to not get Soulburst. I feel like sometime throughout the story, you'll get the Soulburst stone for the starter Lumian you picked in your game, and then maybe you can get the rest of the Soulburst stones through raids or maybe in a shop or something. Yeah, of course, these are some of the most popular Lumians in the entire game, and I mean, there's a lot of different starter Pokemon with Mega Evolutions, and that's basically what Soulburst is. And it'll give a lot of noobs an actual Soulburst for them to use on their team instead of having to go to a random raid and like pick up a random Lumian that they don't care about. Like, starter Lumians basically every single noob has, so it makes sense for them to get a Soulburst. I also think that Ferroglyph should get a Soulburst in the future, since Ferroglyph is one of the most popular Lumians in the whole game, and it's a very special Lumian because it's not really a roamer, but he's also a pretty rare Lumian that you can only get from a high level mastery, and then you have to find it in the wild. Everybody loves Ferroglyph in Lumian Legacy, and I feel like it makes sense for this guy to get a Soulburst since he's such a special Lumian. But those are all the Lumians I think the Llama Train Studios will definitely add Soulburst in the future, but the rest of these guys I think should also get Soulburst, but they're not as high of a priority as the other ones. The first one being Duskit. Of course, this guy is one of the most popular roamings of all time, and one of the most popular Lumians of all time as well as being the first roaming you actually see on your story. Since this guy is so popular, I feel like it makes sense for this guy to get a Soulburst. I mean, Dakuda got his own Soulburst, but I mean, he was part of the story, so I don't know. I think it'd be strange if Duskit never got a Soulburst since it is one of the most popular Lumians. I mean, Mewtwo got a Mega Evolution in Pokemon for being one of the most popular Pokemon, so I mean, Duskit is sort of in that same situation. The next Lumian I have here is Aeropygos, and Aeropygo is sort of the Lumian Legacy version of Gyarados in Pokemon. Like the little baby Magikarp that evolves from a Gyarados. Aeropygo is just like a baby Goppy that evolves into Aeropygo. I mean, Aeropygo is already pretty underwhelming, so having a Soulburst might actually make it pretty good. The only reason why I think I might not do this is because there's a lot of different Aeropygo reskins in the game, but they're already not really giving Soulburst to reskin Lumians, at least as of right now they're not, so I feel like that's not much of an issue. The next Lumian I have here is Colossotrops. Now, Colossotrops is the rarest fossil Lumian out of the 5 different fossil Lumians, and it does not follow the same evolution style as the rest of the fossil Lumians in the game, which reminds me of a certain Pokemon, Aerodactyl, which is the rarest fossil in Pokemon, and also does not follow the same evolution method as the rest of the fossil Pokemon. And that guy got a Mega Evolution in Pokemon, so I feel like it makes sense for Colossotrops to get a Soulburst since it's the rarest fossil and has 3 different evolutions compared to 2. I mean, if you think about it, it only makes sense. But now I have 3 different Lumians I want to talk about, and that is Obsidian, Tyrex, and Seadrake. The reason why I bring up these 3 is because these guys are all basically pseudo-legendaries in Lumian Legacy. I don't think it's set in stone that these guys are like the pseudo-legendaries like you'd see in Pokemon like Dragonite and stuff, but these guys are the closest closest to pseudo-legendaries we have in Lumian Legacy. I feel like Obsidian and Tyrex especially, since these guys are actually adventure Lumians and not event Lumians, compared to Sea Drake, which is like an event-only pseudo-legendary. But you know, there's lots of pseudo-legendaries in Pokemon that got mega evolutions like Garchomp, Tyranitar, Salamence, Metagross, etc. So it makes sense for these guys to have Soulburst as well. But the next Lumians I have here are Volcaloa and Festifer, since these guys are very similar to Krakaloa, and since Krakaloa got a Soulburst, you know, maybe Volcaloa and Festifer. Of course, Volcaloa evolves from Kratal if you trade a Kabunga with your Kratal, and also Festifer is the evolution of the Christmas Kratal. So seeing how Krakaloa got his own Soulburst, these guys might also be able to get a Soulburst in the future. And that also brings me to my next couple Lumians, which is Chartiki and Wakalaka, which again, they're similar to Wiki-wiki, which I think will get a Soulburst in the future. So if Wiki-wiki ever gets a Soulburst, I think Chartiki and Wakalaka should also get Soulburst. But the next Lumian here I have is Guaroldrone. Now Guaroldrone is a very interesting Lumian, because you have to kill lots of Scorbs and like get certain pieces from the Scorbs to evolve it into Valens and then Guaroldrone. So what if there was like a very rare Scorb piece that you could find? Or maybe you need to get like lots of different Scorb pieces when you kill lots of Scorbs, and eventually you'll be able to craft a Guaroldrone Soulburst crystal from the guy you can craft the Scorb stuff with. I feel like that would make a lot of sense. It would also give people a reason to go back to the Pollute Corp and kill lots of Scorbs. But the last Lumian I have to talk about is Avitross, and it is basically the Route 1 regional bird from Lumian Legacy. Very similar like Pidgey in Pokemon, and you know, Pidgey has a mega evolution in Pokemon with Mega Pidgeot. You know, Avitross did recently get a remodel. Well, not really recently, like a year ago, but since Twiddle is a very popular Lumian, I feel like it makes sense for Avitross to get a Soulburst, and lots of people have Avitross on their team since it's, you know, it's so easy to get one. But yeah, guys, that is every single Lumian that I think should get a Soulburst as of right now. Let me know if there's any more Lumians that you think should get a Soulburst, and maybe I'll make a part 2 to this video. And I guess we're gonna have to see once we get more Soulburst Lumians if I was right about any of these Lumians that I think will get a Soulburst. I do think the first few I think are very likely, but you know, the rest of them might happen, might not. I'm not too sure, but yeah, guys, I'm gonna end this video off here, so I'll catch you guys later.